What's up, MCU fans? Anchorpete here. I'm also known as the variant of the very handsome man next to me, Brian. Core's hair over there. In my timeline, and I was Brian, but then I moved to Texas and I got onto YouTube, and it's all been downhill from there. How's it going, man?
Doing good, man.
Nice,
Good to
nice.
hear you.
Oh, yeah, thanks. So we missed Loki last week because of personal reasons on my behalf, but we're back and we're hoping to talk about episodes 2 and 3. And I'm pretty excited, man. Did you like 2 or 3 better?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure, but I can say I think I like the first episode best so far.
Yep. Yeah. It feels almost every episode feels different from each other to where they're like a different show. Do you agree with that? Or
yes, I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
And I feel like they're borrowing heavily from Doctor Who too.
I've watched little Doctor Who, so but yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So such a big. I mean, Doctor Who is essentially about time travel, even though it involves space and all kinds of weird shit. But it's about traveling through time, and that's what this is all about too. And there's always like these different scenarios that the Doctor finds himself in with a different companion. And especially this last episode, which we just watched, called Lamentis, that really felt like a Doctor Who, where they're like on a dying planet. And they got to figure out, how do we get off? How do we help people? So, I don't know where this is going to ultimately stack up against the other MCU shows so far, but I got to say that I feel like it's kind of gone down in quality since the first one.
I completely agree. I'm of course, we're on the same page with it.
Of course. That we're the variants, remember?
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
There you go. So, guys, this is going to be spoiler central for episodes 2 and 3. And I thought that maybe we could go right into a little bit of comic book lore, because I thought that this was actually a little bit more interesting than what happened on the episode. So, Brian, do you know about Sylvie? Like, do you know who that is in the comics?
I actually do not. So I prefaced this before the show, but I am nowhere near as prepared for this episode as I was that first one. I had so many great, amazing notes that I felt. I was so proud of myself. And this one, just life has gotten in the way. So I have nothing prepared. So I do not know.
Yeah, dude, I totally understand. I just happened to stumble across this one video by Rob, who runs Comics Explained. And he had this whole video about this character, Sylvie. And I thought that was just like an alias that Loki was using, like the female Loki. But no, it's like this whole different character. And so I recommend you guys go check out Rob's video. But Brian, Sylvie is essentially a character that was created for Young Avengers Dark Reign.
Okay.
So do you want to just really sum up for people maybe like John Edwards or some of our other friends, like what the hell Dark Reign is? That way I'm not talking the whole time.
God, Dark Reign. It's been a while since I talked about Dark Reign. So Dark Reign was after the fallout from Secret Invasion.
That's right. Yes.
And Norman Osborn had kind of taken over as essentially a new version of S.H.I.E.L.D. called Hammer, and they had kind of dark versions of all the teams. So I mean, the Dark Avengers was like Bullseye as Hawkeye, and what was Moonstone as Captain Marvel.
That's right.
God, I can't remember anybody. Daken was Wolverine.
Yeah. And also, Scorpion at that point was Venom. It wasn't.
That's right. Gargan was Venom. That's right. At the time,
and then he was saying he was Spider-Man on the Dark Avengers.
Yes. I don't particularly remember the Young Avengers Dark Reign stuff though. So I'm hoping you can help me out here.
Yeah, of course. I actually didn't read it when it came out either. I didn't read Young Avengers Dark Reign, right? But with Rob's video, there was a character that got introduced on the team, and her name was Sylvie. Lushton. Shit, I can't even read my own penmanship. It looks like Lushton, though. Sylvie Lushton, okay? And she's essentially kind of like a riff on the Enchantress character, who's like a Thor villain. And the idea behind her is that female Loki took a girl from Broxton, Oklahoma, okay? I'll explain what this means in a second, too. But he made her into this sort of Enchantress character. And she's been in the background for different Marvel books. She was in Young Avengers, and then she was in Avengers Academy, and she showed up in Fearless Defenders too. These are always books that have at least one kind of Asgardian person in it. like Thor, or in the case of the Fearless Defenders, you have Valkyrie, right? And so with this character, she didn't really take off or anything like that, and so she hasn't been around in a while. But Rob is pretty sure that Sylvie's based on her, and the show Sylvie is based on her.
So I mean, the Enchantress connection makes so much sense, and I'm shocked that I didn't think of that.
Yeah,
and it makes even more sense that it's not it's not directly Enchantress, that it's more of an offshoot.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So maybe this has got a little more interesting for me.
Yeah, and so I mentioned before Broxton, Oklahoma, and so for people like John Edwards or like our other friends that don't necessarily know all the comic stuff,
man, you're just calling out John for his nerd card here.
Sorry, could be my friend Mike too, but like Broxton, Oklahoma, for those of you guys that don't know, in the comics, Asgard gets destroyed too, right? And all the Asgardians die. They have literal Ragnarok, but like everybody dies, Thor, everybody, and then Thor comes back to life. And he makes Asgard on Earth in Broxton, Oklahoma. And there's a lot of events that take place there. But I was thinking that this might have some significance in the MCU because Asgard's been destroyed, right? And
yes,
have they ever mentioned what the name of the town is where all the Asgardians live on Earth?
No, but I do feel like it was somewhere in Europe, and it's not in America.
Right.
I don't think they gave it a no, did they just call it New Asgard or something? No, man.
Yeah.
Got to look at the tile cards Endgame.
yeah, it's all good. It's like, but essentially they've set up a place on Earth, right? And so maybe this female Loki variant is not what we all think. Like maybe she's just a henchman for the actual female Loki that is a variant of Loki. I don't know.
I mean, I have some theories about where the villain really is here, but I mean, do we want to jump into that, or do we want to kind of give like a quick recap of thoughts on episode 2 or anything, or?
Why don't we do kind of what we liked from episode 2 and 3 and anything that we disliked, and then we'll kind of go a little bit more into this lore. Sound good?
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So for 2, Loki is already it's called The Variants, that episode, and Loki's already a member of the TVA. He's kind of like working as like a consultant for them, and they go to this. He figures out that like the Variant is hiding out in these apocalyptic scenes, right? Like where the apocalypse is about to happen, and so they go to like Alabama, right?
Yeah. Ultimately, she was. They went to Alabama and like 2050 or 70 or something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't too far in the future, but it was, it's within our lifetime essentially. So there's supposed to be this huge storm in Alabama that's going to just wipe out this like kind of like almost like supermarket like civilization. Like it's like
it was a Roxamart or something like that.
Yeah. And I love that because Roxanne has been in the MCU, right?
Yeah.
And so, they have almost like their Walmart of Roxanne, and it's going to get completely wiped out. And the variant is just going around and almost like possessing people. And so she sets off like these bombs that go throughout time. And what do you think those bombs?
I think it created a whole bunch of variants, and it's trying to. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a permanent thing based on what she did, but I think it was a means to distract the TVA so she can go confront. No, I don't want to say confront. I think she actually flat out meant to kill the timekeepers.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So she's like creating a diversion with the bomb so that she can like get to them and kill them.
Correct. Yeah. She wants that base empty so she can go in there and do what she needs to do.
Yeah. Well, so did you like that sequence when she was like setting off the bombs and that she kind of confronts Loki? But I mean, go ahead.
At that point, I wasn't 100% because I don't think they told us what she was trying to do until the 3rd episode. So I was a little confused. So the episode was interesting. I felt Loki, the Tom Hiddleston Loki, was a little too eager to like work with the TVA. And although I kind of appreciate the chemistry with Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston, which was not present in episode. Wilson was not present in episode 3.
Right.
it seemed out of character for Loki, and I get that. I feel I mentioned him having an existential crisis in the first episode, and maybe that kind of sets him off in some way for a change. But it seemed very out of character for him.
Yeah.
But we eventually do get to meet. I thought the reveal of the female looking Loki was interesting, but I mean, it felt like old news, very quickly afterwards. I don't feel like that reveal was exciting anymore.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, I don't know. I mean, I kind of felt both episode 2 and 3 were more character development and filler than any kind of like real plot advancement. I mean, that's not true because we got some motivation, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as character advancement goes, right? There's one thing I wanted to bring up about episode 3 in particular, right?
Yeah.
Episode 3 was written by let's see.
Kate Herron?
Kate Herron is the director.
Okay.
Okay, and then episode 3 was written by Jesus Christ. I have my notes, but then I'm sorry. Just give me 1 second. Whatever her name is, just the key thing is that she's the showrunner for Ms. Marvel, for when Ms. Marvel comes out.
Interesting. Okay.
And I know that like she's also like she's written this show called like Sex Education. I feel like with this show, it feels more. How do I say this without getting in trouble? It kind of leans more towards like emotions and like for the writer, she said it was a real important thing for her to establish that Loki was bisexual, right?
Yeah.
Versus,
I was going to bring up that out of everything I've been seeing about this show, that was the only thing that popped up. So today for me, it was that article about her saying that, like nothing about the story or anything like that. So it seems like it seems to be a focus of the show. I mean, even when people noticed that gender fluid thing in his Loki's file, like that was a big story that I kept seeing floating around. And that's really all I've seen about the show floating around.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like with certain shows, when you watch genre shows, there are the types that like that's the kind of headline you get. Because it's like that type of show. And like Doctor Who has kind of become that kind of show, because they have the female doctor, right? And then you have shows where it's like very much about plot and like lore and all this kind of stuff. And the MCU seems such a big like focus on that, right? Is like, oh, here's a clue for this and here's a clue for that, right? So it's almost like there's a little bit of a merging of the two types of shows there. And I have to say, just to kind of go along with what you were talking about, there was like character development for Loki in episode 3, but I also kind of feel like they made him a little bit of like a goof, right? Like they made him like fun and friendly, but he kind of lost his edge.
So I felt for the majority of the third episode, I felt I was actually kind of bored.
Yeah.
But after the train sequence, when they get thrown out of the train, or I mean, Loki gets thrown out of the train and then Sylvie jumps after him, I started becoming a little more interested again. I felt like I saw Loki is trying to break down Sylvie's barriers and try to get to the bottom of what she's doing. And I saw that deviousness that made everyone love Loki from the original Thor and the Avengers. And the episode kind of turned around for me a little bit. But it took a long time to get there, I think. Yeah.
See, because like Loki in the MCU, he's kind of almost portrayed in two different ways, right? In Thor Ragnarok, he's very much like a comedic character, and they're kind of playing him up for laughs. In Thor: The Dark World, you sort of feel this tragedy for him and his love for his mother who gets murdered. And then in the first Thor and in the Avengers, he's a pretty dastardly kind of villain, especially in the Avengers. He's pretty ruthless. So I feel like there's at least two different versions of him. And This episode 3, was very much the kind of goofy version of it, right?
Yeah. But at the same time, though, I like to see the glimpse of the Loki that wanted to help his people in Ragnarok. I really enjoyed that because I like that version of Loki just as much as I like the villainous version. So you're right, though. It does definitely seem like two characters. I mean, literally, it is two characters now.
right, because he's a variant. Yeah. But speaking of that he's trying to save the Asgardians. I really liked when he was singing that Asgardian song, even though it seemed like a little out of character for him or like a little too over the top. Just that sort of like that showing his love for his culture. I really like that a lot. Yeah, no,
I like that scene as well too. And he has a surprisingly good voice, I thought.
Yeah, right? Tom Hiddleston, yeah. With that whole train sequence, they have that whole metaphor with like love. They're talking about love. And this kind of just doubles back to what I was trying to say about Sylvie and her her reasoning, like why she's doing this. They kind of made it seem like Sylvie is in love with someone, and that might be motivating her actions against the TVA. What do you think?
That is an interesting theory. I didn't consider that, but yes, that's very possible. I really don't have any kind of thread on what her motivation is, but that's the best I've heard, certainly.
Well, okay, so here's my question to you. Do you think that they did this whole thing about love? Because there's quite a few lines of dialogue about love. Do you think they did it just so that they could say Loki's bisexual? Because that leads into him saying that. Or do you think that it might be because her character is in love with someone and that's why she's doing this?
I'm hoping it's both.
Okay. Oh, I got so excited my headphones fell off. What you just said. Okay.
I mean, I have no problem with the representation and then putting them out there, but like to go out of your way and make a whole episode out of just to make that point seems excessive, I think. I'm totally for it. There's no issue with it, but it would seem weird. So I hope there is something more to it than just getting that out and saying that line.
Yeah. Well, so can I throw in a little bit more lore that might build upon that theory?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, Brian, the actress, I believe her name is, oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, where are my freaking notes? Her name is like Gugu. She's...
the one that I know from Black Mirror, yes.
Okay.
I feel like this is going to play into what I want to say, too.
Okay. Do you know the name of her character?
Ravonna Renslayer.
Right. Okay. Do you know anything about that character?
I know she has some ties to Kang the Conqueror, romantic ties.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I just looked her up on Wikipedia or whatever today, and it was talking about how like Kang kind of fell in love with her in like the 40th century, and he wanted to take over her father's kingdom, and she got in the way, and they have this like big convoluted history. But I just think it's real interesting that this is a character that might be fated to fall in love with Kang. So what do you think might be the connection between these characters?
So I the whole time prior to the last 15 or so minutes of that episode, I was thinking that obviously that actress is she's at least some kind of nominated actress. So and then she was excellent in the Black Mirror episode that I remember her from.
Yeah.
You don't just cast somebody in a throwaway role, so there's something more there.
Right.
I was thinking more along the lines that she was more so the villain and is controlling the TVA and acting like the time. I mean, the timekeepers are not really there. They either don't exist or they didn't exist, or they're gone or something, and she's just pretending that they're still there or making people think they're still there.
Oh, I like
But
that.
now that you're mentioning this love thing,
yeah,
I'm wondering if Sylvie and Ravonna have some kind of history now.
Right. That's what I was thinking. That like they took that aspect from the Kang story, and they're just going to have these two characters be at it. And
because I don't feel like we're going to get Kang in this show.
No. Yeah, I agree. There'll be like allusion to him, I think. But
yeah. Possibly. I think that would be the most possible thing. But to think that they're going to get what is the actor they cast as him?
Oh, I know. He's fantastic.
Yeah. But I'm very much looking forward to him in Ant-Man and the Wasp. But I don't think we're going to get him in there. It just makes sense to me. If they wouldn't put Doctor Strange in WandaVision, they're not going to put a movie villain in a TV show, I don't think.
Yeah. Jonathan Majors is Kang.
Yes.
I just looked him up. Yeah. Fantastic. From Lovecraft Country. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. He's not going to just show up. It'd be pretty awesome, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
like one thing, just kind of we're on the same topic. It's very possible that Sylvie is not this character from Dark Avengers at all, and that it is just a female version of Loki, and they're just using that name because Marvel does that sometimes, where they have kind of the trappings of a character, but it has nothing else to do with the character.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, you're saying Sylvie, and you mentioned that it's an offshoot of the Enchantress, and we have not seen the Enchantress in anything here. I mean, she's one of the more prominent Asgardian characters, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, we got Scourge before we got her. So, I mean, maybe that's just the MCU's version of the Enchantress.
Could be. Yeah. That's a very good point too. So let's see. What else did we have about that? I actually, speaking of that metaphor, I actually really liked the metaphor that Loki had for love when he said it was like a vanishing dagger. I thought that was very appropriate for him, like for his version of love.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And one other thing too, while we're just talking about Sylvie Lushton, she was created by Paul Cornell, who is a guy that's written for Marvel, probably within the past decade. I think he's a really good writer. He was the guy that was kind of behind Wolverine dying when Wolverine died in the last decade. And Paul Cornell is also a guy who's written for Doctor Who too. So there's a little connection there.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's see. How many episodes do we have left? We watched 3, so there's 3 more.
Yeah, there's only 3 left.
Yeah. So what do you think is going to happen with the remaining 3?
I don't know, because this episode really threw me for a loop that it was just Loki and Sylvie on this planet the whole time.
Yeah.
We didn't see the TVA. We saw very little of the TVA, but in the beginning. But I don't know. I mean, they're trapped in that planet. The device is broken.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I honestly have no idea what's going to happen in the next episode. I have no idea where it's going. I have no idea how we get to the scene where Loki has the vote Loki kind of get up on. I have no idea.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's some quality speculating right there. No, honestly, the way that this episode ended, it was kind of a shocker, and it ended so suddenly too. I was like, "Whoa, It's over!" Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I had the same feeling there. I mean, just to comment too on, I felt in this episode. I know they use that that technology they use in the Mandalorian for the backgrounds and all that. It's not green screen. It's something slightly different. It's they're actually projecting them on the backdrop while they're acting.
Right.
It actually took me out of a lot of the scenes in this episode. Yeah. I am a sucker for practical effects. I like when things are physical and real and you can tell. And I understand that that's impossible and you couldn't make a purple planet otherwise.
Right.
It honestly took me out of some of the scenes in this episode. And I mean, there were a couple fight scenes in this, and I felt they were just really thrown in there as filler. They didn't seem necessary. And then the last scene, it was interesting that they're trying to rush to the ship and trying to save the people, and it was even more interesting that they failed at that. But it's like they just ran a few steps and stopped, and then maybe fought some guys for some reason. And they ran a few steps in a different direction and stopped, and they didn't really cover any ground. It was just it's just very noticeable to me and odd. I wish they at least would have ran in a direction, one direction or something. I don't know.
No, I understand, man. Before they get to that city where the Ark is, they kind of walk quickly. They don't even run. When they're in the desert, they don't even run to the city. I'm like, the planet's going to explode. You have to get there. Right?
Yeah, And like they're trying to make up ground that from that a train was traveling. So I mean, it had to have been pretty goddamn far because they said that they had a time limit on it. They said like 12 hours, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, there's tons of things we could pick apart with that too. Because like also, I think that before, even before the planet started to shatter, I think that you would just have anarchy in the streets at that point. If there's pieces of the planet falling down, I don't think that like seeing the planet go like that would have made everybody go crazy. I think people would have already been going crazy. But I mean, that's just nitpicking, though.
No, I agree. But what I was more specifically calling out is that it looked like the soldiers or guards, like they were attacking them for whatever reason. Like, but why?
Yeah.
Like the literal world is crashing around you, and you're fighting these people that might have caused a little disturbance on a train that I can't imagine how they even heard about it.
Right. That's a very good point.
It seemed like they were just adding an action set piece for the sake of adding an action set piece to it.
I agree.
With the action in Falcon and Winter Soldier, like everything was worthwhile. It was necessary.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's a better word. Purposeful. It felt like it didn't have a purpose.
Yeah. Very good point. I think that like maybe one of the sequences where there was some action prior to that, like when they're on the train, maybe that was just to show how dangerous Sylvie was,
Well, no, they established that in the TVA in the very beginning. When she's in the TVA, she fights off those guards with those rods. That's all they needed.
That's okay.
I think they were trying to balance out the all the dialogue in this episode, and with empty action scenes, and that's kind of it. And while we were talking about this, I mean, I'm guessing the only way that they can get out of this is if Owen Wilson, Mobius comes in with the door and gets them out. That's the only way that they can happen.
Right, I agree. It's like a Deus Ex Machina. He shows up. They might even like start the next episode at some different point, and then like they'll just show that Loki got saved. It's sort of like an afterthought.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what's going to ultimately happen, but like, what would be satisfying for you to happen with Sylvie? Like, what would be something satisfying with that?
Well, I like your idea.
You like my idea?
I mean, if I really like the idea that she's trying to destroy like the TVA, so maybe she could be reunited with Ravonna because she dedicated herself to her job or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's actually a really interesting story, but I mean, will that actually be it? I have no idea.
Okay, well, it's always like sort of things building up to other things, right? So you could have a stinger where it's like Sylvie literally was created by the female version of Loki, right? Like you could literally have that, and like that could be her character, just like she is in the comics, and that like the last end credit scene of the show could be a female Loki that we haven't seen. And maybe that's. I
don't feel like they're going to do that. I feel like that they cast this actress as her, and that's it. Like there's not going to be another surprise like that with another actress playing the character we thought this one was playing. Okay. And actually, there's one huge plot point we didn't really talk about, and I can't believe we forgot about it. The point when I felt the episode started to turn around, they were talking about how she enchants people, or whatever, and they mentioned that the guard she captured, that she interrogated to find out how to get to the timekeepers.
Yeah.
She mentioned that she had to dig back into her memory 300 years,
right,
or hundreds of years, to find a memory from before she would join the TVA.
Right.
To which Loki points out that according to the TVA, they were all created by the timekeepers.
Right.
That's a big thing right there, and that leads into my Ravonna's controlling the TVA.
Yeah.
Pretending that she's answering to the timekeepers, but they don't exist or whatever.
Yeah. That's a really. I'm really glad you brought that up because the idea is that everyone that works for the TVA is a variant, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. That's very intriguing. Because then it's like how often is it that there's a variant created? It must happen all the time.
Yeah, no, and the irony in it too is like everyone's a variant and their job is to hunt down other variants. That's kind of great.
Yeah. It's kind of like,
and that's when the episode turned around for me and made me a little more interesting. Because before that, it was just like lead up to character development, I suppose. Because it wasn't even character development at first. It was you really get that chunk right on that train there. But before that, it was like just banter, really.
Yeah, and even like that woman that was like in the trailer and that she used that like sonic weapon on them. I was like, oh, okay, it's kind of boring. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's kind of like Blade Runner, right? Like the Blade Runner 2049, where it's like replicants hunting replicants. It's like that, right? With the the variants. Yeah,
that was a slow movie too. Maybe that's just the way the show's going.
Yeah, who knows, man? We still got 3 episodes left, but I'm still looking forward to it. You know, even though I feel like it's gone down in quality a little bit, I still am intrigued by it.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly better than Jupiter's Legacy.
Oh, yeah, no kidding, man. Shit. Cool. So now that we've insulted Jupiter's Legacy, I think that's a good wrapping up point for us. Yeah. So, Brian, thanks for joining. We got 3 more episodes left, and we also have Black Widow coming out in a couple weeks too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah. So Brian and I will watch Black Widow, and then we'll cover it on this channel. But for you guys that watched, like, tell us in the comments, what do you guys think of Sylvie? Who do you think Sylvie is? And, like, what do you think is ultimately going to happen in this show? But until then, Brian and I will see you guys.